Mick, I have been trying to get you on since last September. I went through our messages. I wanted you on for season 1 of Soberly. I reached out to you. We were going to do it. And then there was radio silence, right? And I'm never going to push my guests, whatever. About 3 weeks later, you uploaded the most heartbreaking video saying that you had relapsed. I want to get into childhood in a second, but with your social media, do you find that really holds you accountable?
Yeah, of course. That's a big part of why I do it, and I think that the social media stuff, this is the reason why my 34 years in addiction, 13 years in prison, it gives me some kind of purpose. It holds me accountable. And I feel like it's a gift now that I was given to be able to help people in this space. And that's fucking beautiful,
Oh, completely. Where did you grow up?
Everywhere. My dad was in the army, so I grew up all over the shop. Lived in England for 2 years, first 2 years of my life, and
What was your family unit like? How many siblings do you have?
There was 2 boys and a girl. My sister passed a few years ago when I was in jail. So unfortunately that's the crosses you carry when you're doing crime and all that kind of stuff. Unfortunately, I didn't get to go to my dad's or my sister's funeral. So.
Because you were in jail?
Yeah, in jail for both, so I missed them both. But this is stuff I have to live with now, and these are some of the reasons why they're the rock bottoms, of course.
When you're in jail and a loved one passes, how do they actually deliver the news?
Psych. So, and I knew for some reason, I'd seen there was a few screws and a psych walking towards my door, and there was something in my head that was saying, and I'd seen this happen for other people as well. So, I just knew in my head, and that it was the same thing the second time. So
the second time you were like, shit, here we go again.
Yeah, putrid. So,
Mick, what was your childhood like?
Listen, it was, my dad was a Vietnam veteran, so he came back, he was a damaged man. But I grew up, my mum and dad were kind of very loving, but, it was very volatile environment, He was a broken man, and so, things were tough, But, my mum was a CEO of Nintendo for a long time.
Wow!
Yeah, that was crazy as a kid.
That's like your heaven. That's like dreamland.
Yeah, it was great. So, but listen, it was okay. I guess hindsight's a beautiful thing. I didn't even realise kind of how that kind of stuff had affected me until I've been able to be a little bit. I'm clean and sober, a bit of clarity and peace of mind around this stuff, and to identify. Obviously an addict. I come from an Irish family. And I think it's an accumulative of stuff, like it can be hereditary and product of your environment and trauma and all these things, and I think I've probably got a bit of a Johnny combo, bits and pieces of it all, so...
Isn't it so interesting with our healing now in sobriety that we can look back on our childhood and 2 things can be true. We can love our parents and know that they had their struggles, but also see where maybe some of their shortcomings were and how it kind of moulded us.
Yeah, of course.
How were you in high school?
I was a prick of a kid. Yeah, I got expelled from every school I ever went to.
Really?
And, I was a shit of a kid, and I just didn't want to be there. I think that for some people, school works for them, and it really didn't for me. I didn't even complete year 10, so my parents had a gutful in the end of sending me to places, and the last place I went to was a boarding school, Masnod College in Perth, and I lasted weeks there, and in the end they just said, listen, we've had enough of sending you to places and paying money, and go and get a job. And I was like, that's great. I was wrapped, yeah.
So you entered the workforce from that?
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
Were you a good worker, like better than you were at school?
Oh, yeah, I was. Because that's what I wanted to do. I had a gut full of the rest of it. I was an addict at very early in the piece, and not identifiably an addict, but now to look back and go, wow, my closest brother was 5 years, then the next one was 7 years, and then 10 years. So I picked up stuff really early, So I was smoking pot pretty steadily at about 12, 13. Drinking, a few times a week, but, getting smashed.
So. Mick, when I look back on my life, I feel like I was always addicted to something. It didn't have to be alcohol. It was probably sugar from the jump, then maybe exercise, then alcohol. Does that resonate with you?
100%, yeah. And it's still like that now. Like, I have to be really careful. My addiction can come out sideways, and it can be social media. It's retail therapy. I'm fucking hopeless. Retail therapy is my worst. But, it does. As long as I kind of identify this stuff, and I've got so much more awareness now being clean and sober, that I'm able to see this stuff. And I guess it's the healthy shit, like the gym for me. I mean, there's days where, I've been known to be at the gym and get a call from, a friend going, listen, do you want to go to the gym? I'll say, listen, I'm at the gym, but I'll come to your house and then go back to the gym. So it keeps me busy, and I have to be careful of that balance kind of stuff where it's an avoidance thing to work on myself, you know what I mean? Like, I try and make that space to be able to still, I guess you can be clean, and then there's being in recovery, which is making an effort to work through some of the reasons why I use for such a long time,
Totally. Mine is definitely fear-based. So Mick and I were talking off air that we are both moving house over the next couple of weeks. Exactly. And yesterday I was so stressed because our house fell through and we're really banking on it. And Mick, I was saying to Bo, I don't know what, like, my heart was racing so fast. So you know what I did? I ran to the deli and got sugar, like almost like that hit. So it's interesting how it still shows,
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
Talk to me about the drug use through your teen years.
Yeah, well, I started using intravenously at about 15. I was on the boats. I worked on a trawler and just lied my ass off, you know what I mean? Like, I'd had nose rails before, but then jumped on the boats and said that I'd used before, and so by the time I got back after a week being on the water like this, shooting up, telling them I'd done it before, and I guess it was a peer pressure thing, but something that I'd kind of wanted to do. And anything that I do, I don't have second, third or fourth gear. I'm first and sixth, unfortunately. So, but yeah, I guess that's where it started, and then didn't stop. It's always been the witch for the bitch. So it's always been something, I've smoked pot forever, always drunk, and then, everything else on top of that,
It was just kind of like the next level. Like, it felt natural to you to just keep
almost.
going.
And it happened before I'd even really identified that it had taken place, that it had happened, and then it's party drugs and stuff, obviously, and then you get into clubbing and parties and all this kind of stuff, and then just to be a part of, that's what everyone else is doing, but that's what I was doing. It was a full-time kind of a job at the time, I had every pub covered, and from hospitality nights on Wednesday nights and Thursday, Friday, I always had somewhere to go and do something. So,
And how did people view you at this time? Were you, there's Mick, he's the good time guy, or there's Mick, he is going to sell us drugs?
Probably the good time guy in the beginning until it wasn't. Do you know what I mean? And then all of a sudden, like going out and getting loose and getting into fights and stuff all the time. And that's kind of where my addiction took me to. You can become pretty agitated and volatile, and because of the relationship breakdown, and then the wheels fall off. I'd had 2 children. I split up with the mother of my kids, and so I was going out and getting in fights all the time, and so the people around me were kind of probably a bit like, fucking, this is a lot. Every time we go out, he's giving somebody a hiding, and so and I get that, but I've always been kind of the life of the party. I think forever. I'm clean and sober, and I'm still that guy. So.
Mick, we don't have to talk about them, and I can edit this out and obviously don't use names, but are your siblings similar?
Completely different. They're a year apart, even my children.
Yeah.
Or are you saying my children?
Both. It's like I want to, well, especially your actual siblings, because of your upbringing. I want to know if they had similar experiences. Or
I think it came out in different ways. Like my sister, who's passed on now, we've all been addicts in some respect. I think that I don't like the word functioning addict, but. My older brother, I would say he's a functioning addict. He's not anymore, but he used pot and stuff like that. But he's been able to do that kind of responsibly for forever. He's that guy. My other brother, he has given up drinking now for a couple of years. My sister kind of really fell off the rails, and she was just getting her life back together when she passed, which is, that's really sad. But, unfortunately, that's what life throws at us, And we all kind of dealt with stuff differently. We all kind of grew up, obviously, in the same kind of trauma, And it all just came out that little bit differently. I think because I was so far behind everybody else, I was the blackest of black sheep, you know. So
yeah, everyone who's on this podcast, we were all the black sheep of the family.
Yeah.
Okay, so at this point in time, you are taking whatever drug is coming, lots of partying, you're drinking and then you're fighting and you're becoming very volatile. You've had a relationship breakdown.
Yeah.
Does it keep going south?
Yeah, well, I mean, I owned a tree lopping company and I was drinking and smoking a lot of pot there. And I guess that when they talk about that functioning addict, I never went to jail until my early 30s.
Okay.
So, or just turned 30, spent my whole 30s and, you know, half of my 40s pretty much in prison. And, yeah, I guess it was that functioning addict, but you just never get anywhere close to your potential, and relationship breakdown and not being there as a father and as a son and all this kind of stuff, you know. And I don't think that you can see, when you're in it, it's hard to see the wreckage around you that's going on, do you know what I mean? So, and that was tough because it took me to get to, you know, 13 years in prison and kind of some pretty sad kind of realities to go, wow, you know, it's just such a selfish sport. Addiction, do you know what I mean? So, it was tough. I kind of dragged my family through the mud for a long time, you know.
Yeah. Can we talk about the year before you went to prison, or like the few weeks before you went to prison? Yep.
My runners got pinched coming back from Adelaide with £40 a pot, and so they charged me a year later. And it was only a small sentence, but that was the start. Like, it was three years to serve a year, and then that was the start. That was the revolving door. And unfortunately, my dad had passed that year. My girl left me. Your support networks change. And I'm not somebody that went to jail and went, this is fucking great. You know what I mean? Because there is those people. And I know that sounds crazy, but. Yeah, listen, I don't even know what happened. I got out and started using drugs straight away again. And I was using drugs while I was in jail as well, using bupe, subby.
Is it easy to get in jail?
Yeah, of course, yeah. Yeah, drugs is, you know, in some instances are easier to get in jail than what is outside sometimes, which is crazy. That's madness, but yeah, that's
So you were still an addict all throughout your time?
Yeah, for sure, yeah. And because I've been on prescription medication for a bad back, so Lyrica and Tremel, and I didn't take that how I was supposed to. I would stook them and double up the next day and swap in between and be buying packets, and it was always something, you know, drinking jail brew. And
what does that taste like?
Absolutely putrid. But you do what you've got to do. So,
does it get you drunk straight up?
Yeah, rolling drunk.
Wow.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's putrid. But even drinking, I mean, this is how bad my addiction got, is drinking fucking hand wash.
Yeah.
You know,
hand
sanitizer. It's just madness. So.
Okay, so you get out of jail for your first charge. You go straight back to drugs. How long is it until they catch you again?
A couple of months, maybe 6 weeks. Yeah.
Wow, so you must have been so intense from the jump. 6 weeks
back. Yeah, and because that's just, you kind of, like the people that you meet in there, and then so you start hanging with this different kind of crowd of people, your support networks change, you know, the wheels fell off, and so I'd found places where I was able to make an earn, and I started debt collecting, and that's where that all started, and it kind of never stopped from there. You know, I got a pretty good resume in that field pretty quickly. You know, so.
Okay, so what was the charge for the second time you went into prison?
What were the charges? GBH. Just violent offences.
Okay.
Yeah, a couple of violent offences. What was it? Enter with intent, malicious wounding. I mean, my history is
okay. So, and then how many years or months did you get for that charge?
I did 14 months, got out, and then got hit with attempted murder, extortion, kidnapping, deprivation of liberty times 4, and then that was the big one.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Was that because it was the big one, was that the final one?
Well, and I've had a couple on top since then.
Okay.
See, I've been on parole since that very first sentence. I've never been off it, and what happens, it goes accumulative. So all these things just go on top, on top, on top, on top. So I haven't been off parole since May 10, 2010. So it's been a long time. I've only been out for 2 Christmas since May 10, 2010.
Right.
So.
And with that big charge, you know, Mick, by that stage, do you walk into the courtroom and the judge just goes, like just slaps you the hardest?
Well, of course. I mean,
Yeah.
they were the most serious charges. I was still on parole. It had been kind of the third time I'd been going back looking at an actual sentence. I think I'd done a return to prison warrant for dirty urines and stuff like that in between there somewhere. I think that was probably a 3-month sentence. But yeah, it kind of all rolls into one when you're kind of using as well. And I mean, I was getting loose, being on the run and all that kind of stuff. So I was using a lot of drugs. My memory today is ratchet. It kills my life. I hate it. I lose my phone 5 times a day and it kills me. But yeah, it is what it is, unfortunately. And
Mick, if you're going to jail and you now have connections, friends, you can get high, was there almost a sense of carelessness on the outside world of like, oh, who cares if I go to jail?
Yeah, it was a little bit like that. It was, I didn't have a great deal. I thought that I didn't have much to live for, my relationships were terrible. I wasn't seeing my children, and I really didn't care, and I thought that parole was just a fucking setup. And I said this just recently to my parole officer. I thought that you guys were just fuckwits. I thought you were just a setup. I thought I was the fuckwit. I was getting more charges, giving dirty urines, not adhering to all these orders, and so yeah, it's to look back on it now when I thought it was them trying to, just fucking dragging me through the mud. I was the one dragging myself through the mud. There was no ownership. There was justifications, and I was pointing the finger. But when I look back, it's
Totally.
I was just a rat bag.
So the big charge at the end, how long was that for? How long were you in prison for?
I did 7, but I'm doing a 13-year sentence at the moment. So my head sentence is 13. So it's October next year.
Yeah.
But as I said, that was just from being in a cumulative of stuff. The charges of attempted murder was dropped. I ran it to trial, and it got dropped to grievous bodily harm, extortion, kidnapping, and all this kind of stuff. So,
Okay. Was that the last time you went in prison, or did you go again?
No, I've been again since then. Yeah.
I want to know, when did it hit you that, fuck, I got to change here? Was that in prison? Was that out? Because there's got to be, do you remember like a day? Do you remember a conversation? Tell me.
Yeah, I do. I rang my daughter and she was really upset, and the mother of my kids is terminally ill, so she's got multiple myeloma, and hearing her say, listen, Dad, we're really going to need you now, and thinking to myself, well, I just haven't been there for the best part of a decade, even more, and I just thought, wow, it just made me feel like a real piece of shit, and look back and go, wow, this is just madness. You can change a lot of stuff, but you can't get time back. And my beautiful children, who I'd missed growing up, unfortunately, and I just knew that something needed to change, and so I approached my parole lady and said, listen, I can't keep doing this. I'd had a gutful anyway. My mental health, I was struggling, and I said, something needs to change. Can you get me into a rehab? And that's kind of where it started.
And that was the last of jail? That was the last of prison?
That was the last of jail,
okay.
Yeah, that was the last of prison, yeah.
Getting into rehab, I have heard all sorts. Some say it's so hard because there's not a lot of spots. Others, a lot of times they go, oh my God, this, the heavens opened and there was a spot available.
Yep.
Getting into rehab for you, what was your experience?
Listen, I think that was the heavens opened in my kind of, respect. I'd asked them within 2 weeks they'd got me into Glebe House down here in Sydney, and the things just lined up at the time, and I guess that happens, but I think it's putting yourself in that position to be able, for that to be able to happen too, do you know what I mean? Like, you've got to be dotting the I's and crossing the T's and turning up for yourself and ringing as many places as you can and speaking to as many places and getting on Google, and there's no sense in knowing that something needs to change but then not doing anything about that, You've got to be fucking really proactive about finding somewhere, so I was lucky. I was very lucky.
Had you ever said to your kids throughout their life, I promise I'll get sober, I promise I'll get sober, and it's like empty promises?
Yeah, 100%, yeah.
When you said that to your daughter, when she came to you and said, we really need you, Dad, and you said, all right, I'm going to change, did she kind of roll her eyes and go, okay?
Oh, I'm sure they did. I'm sure they did. And now, and this is why I know now that my amends is made through my clean time and by living in amends. Like, as you say, the sorries become empty and promises are just, they're just promises that have nothing backing up behind it. So that's where I've kind of really had to go, you know what, I just have to stay clean and sober and turn up for myself to be able to turn up for them, you know, and that's kind of been where it's at, you know. So
that's what I found in my recovery is actually doing what I'm going to say. That's the only
action.
That's the only response I can show to people of how much I've changed is just actually being reliable, because you don't realise how unreliable you're seen to the world, right?
Yeah.
And it's keeping those promises to yourself. I'm going to get up at 5 a.m, so get the fuck up at 5 a.m. I'm going to go to the gym today.
Yeah.
I know it sounds so trivial
it's
and
the
little
stuff. It really isn't though, and this is one of the reasons why they say in rehab, they go, listen, you make your bed when you wake up in the morning, because these are ticking stuff off from the very start, you know what I mean, and I guess that's what it's about, and you feel a bit more kind of authentic and like you know, you're just doing the things that you say you're going to do, which didn't happen for a long time, and that's what I have now. I have my kind of my word to be able to say this, and this is what I'm going to do, and just do it, you know. So
let's get to rehab. What did your journey look like? How many days?
I went to Glebe House. I did the 3 months there. They thought I was too institutionalised to go to stage 2, so I went to Sober House from in Hoos in Penrith, and that's where I met Alex. I don't know if you know Alex.
Of course.
So I met Alex there, and I got kicked out of there for having knowledge of somebody drinking and not saying anything about it. I didn't bust myself, but and listen, I understand that. I mean, that's tricky. It's tricky because of where I've come from. Done a lot of jail, and I didn't feel comfortable telling on somebody. But I also understand that you know, keeping somebody accountable like that is the best thing for them in the end, because they're able to then go, okay, own my shit, get back on the horse, start again. But by not holding them accountable, it sets them up for a fall. But so I understand that. Listen, I'd probably still do the same thing as I did again. So it's just one of those things. I'm trying to. It's that balancing and trying to work out kind of, you know, where I'm at, where it sits with me morally. You know.
Yeah.
So.
Alex. Gosh, now we're talking about Alex. Mick, we are so all or nothing people. I could imagine myself getting kicked out of rehab and going, you know, F the world, I'm going to get fucked up. How did you handle it?
Listen, it wasn't too bad. I kind of, I felt like it was a bit of a setup. I moved in with a chick for a couple of weeks, and from there I went to a Junkie Towers and Ice Palace. Like somebody was going to rehab. They said, listen, come and stay at my unit. You can have that for 12 weeks. I'm going to Orange, rah. And I thought, that's great. And I thought that I was strong enough. I had 7 months sobriety up. And it was a bit of a setup. I didn't listen to my stomach, and I didn't listen to my sponsor, because when I listened to this, he talks shit to me. It's my addict. That's where my addict lives, is in between here, and because it talks to me in my voice, sometimes I fucking listen, you know. But and when I don't listen to this, kicks me in the ass every time. So.
So is that when you relapsed?
That's when I relapsed. Yeah.
How long did that relapse last?
Maybe eight weeks, maybe 10 weeks. Yeah, 8 weeks maybe.
And do you just go hell for leather?
It was crazy, yeah. And I think that because I knew straight away I needed to get back in somewhere. So I'd organised to get back into a rehab, and then there was the distance from me ringing up and getting into the rehab. So I thought, I'm going to fucking hit it hard now, you know. Until I get in, I'm going to utilise this time, which is just madness, you know. But and I was overusing. Like, the irony in that is crazy.
Wait,
like,
what do you mean?
The guilt and shame connected with using.
Yep.
I was shattered, you know. It really, that was something that fucking, you know, ripped me to pieces. And so I was using over that stuff. I'm just going to grab a drink.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was using over this stuff.
It's a shame.
Yeah, and at the start, when I first had it, like, I went to Centrelink and I was just asking the secchi there, how do I get to such and such a station? And he was telling me, and a girl walked past and she was going, listen, I've got an appointment here, I'll give you a lift when I leave. And then all of a sudden I ended up back at her house, and then she pulled out a water pipe, and, you know. And I thought to myself, I'm just going to have this is the madness of it. And I won't say anything, I'll just have the one pipe, and then, do you know what I mean? And then I thought to myself, how am I going to rock up to NA and have my clean times, like at a year clean time, people congratulating me and me feeling like a fucking fraud, you know what I mean? And I'm not that guy, you know, and so Then I was overusing because I didn't want to tell people. I'd had to tell my children. I'd let them down, and I'd had all this stuff go on. And historically, I'm sure that's what people were waiting for this, and that gutted me.
So you get clean from your relapse. What timeline? How far away when was this?
So November 27th is when I went to Who's.
Right.
So the 8 to 10 weeks prior to that.
Yeah, so that must have been when I reached out to you.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it would have been, yeah.
Okay. How do you know that this time is different? What feels differently internally?
Oh, listen, it's tough. Like you never say never. So but I feel great. I feel amazing. I've got too much to lose. The social media stuff that I do, it does, as you said before. That stuff keeps me accountable. But most of all, I'm loving my fucking life like this. It's amazing, and I just didn't know that there was another way. And this has been amazing. There's some real doors opening at the moment, and it's exciting. And I really enjoy. I love my training. I love the content stuff. I love my life at the moment. I couldn't see me. The life that I lived for such a very long time. It makes my skin crawl now. So.
What's your relationship like with your kids now?
Well, with my oldest daughter is good. My youngest daughter, I'm sure that she just wants to see a little bit more time, and that's okay. I get that. I understand that, and we've always had a great relationship. Like, things were fine. I was in rehab. This is before the relapse, and she said, listen, she was having her second child, and she decided that she thought it was best for her and her family to have a little bit of distance, And you know what? That's on me. That's not. I thought it was amazing that she was able to set some boundaries like that. Yeah. They're young women, and I think that's good. It's really tough. It was one of the hardest messages that I've ever got. But this is the residual. This is the action reaction stuff of such a very long time of making poor choices.
Yeah.
So.
What do they teach you in rehab that you use every day? Is it the routine? Is it I don't know, spirituality? What do you think?
I think the non-negotiables for me, like the things, meditation, prayer, my higher power is God. It's different for everybody. I'm a Christian, so that's massive for me. But mine is the gym, like an inventory of an afternoon. That's a huge thing for me to be able to go, okay, where could have I done stuff differently? What is there of what happened today for me to own? And most of the time it's a lot, you know what I mean? Like, for such a very long time it was just so easy to point the finger at it. It was everybody else's problem, and now it's ownership, awareness, and that's kind of that rehab gave me that stuff as well, I'm able to kind of see stuff for what it is, and now I know what my body's like now. Like my feelings, I had no real idea, but now I connect my feelings to the way my body feels as well, with my anxiety and anger. My default for such a long time was drugs, alcohol and anger. And lucky you can change that stuff, and it's not easy, that neuroplasticity of being able to find a different default and carve that new track in the side of the mountain and be able to change that stuff where, because I'm ADHD, I'm really quick. I'm a reactor, not a responder.
Yeah.
So being able to slow down a little bit too, that was something that's really helped as well, So.
Mick, what do you do now when you are triggered over drugs or alcohol? Let's say it's, you've got a whole afternoon free and it's your time of like 5 p.m. or something. How do you swap your thinking?
Well, I do meetings. There's most days I'll go to a meeting. I'm the secretary of a meeting as well, so kind of doing service kind of keeps me fronting up. I go to the gym. I reach out. I've got Alex. We live not far from each other there, and I hang with people that are going in the same direction as me. So I'm forever on the phone. When I leave here, I'm going to see my sponsor. That's Danny Shannon. And he's a great man. He's 15 years clean, and he's just a gentleman. And I just surround myself with these people. So when things come up, I call people, and guys don't do that, and I certainly never did that. And they talk about a problem shared is a problem halved, and I think that's really true. There's some real merit to that stuff, and I get my thinking checked. So when I'm feeling like this stuff, like yesterday, like moving in the rain, killing my life, and actually I did some content on it yesterday where feeling really triggered. you know, and but I spoke to people about this, you know, I shot some content on it, and so it helps me when I'm talking about this stuff and doing content. I'm able to identify. So I think it's hard sometimes when you feel triggered, but you don't put it out there and you don't talk to anyone about it. You don't really know how it's making you feel and kind of the direction you can go in so fast, because that's what addiction's like. It can be all of a sudden just right there on your doorstep, you know, and if you can't kind of slow down enough and reach out to people before you know it, it's all over, you know.
I so resonate with you about making content, because if I have that like overwhelming feeling of, oh, am I the only person in the world going through this right now? And if you jump online, I mean, this is got to be a very niche chat, but if you jump online and if you make the video right then and there with that same energy, it resonates with your audience so authentically.
Yeah.
How important is it for you to keep showing up online so honestly, like you did for that video when you said, you know, Mick has this classic peoples, and I love it.
Yeah.
But when you said I've relapsed, like how important is it for you to be authentic?
Well, I think that's what it's about. I think being raw and open and vulnerable, and I don't think there's a lot of that. I don't think there's a lot of people that do the recovery stuff that are able to be really honest about kind of where they're at. And I think that's why, I mean, you know, I'm not, you know, killing it and, you know, been an overnight success, and but things are going well on my socials, and I think I've got a pretty kind of loyal following of people because I am honest and open and raw and vulnerable, and people resonate with that stuff, you know, and I think that's what that's about, you know, and if nothing else to offer, that's what I've got to offer is raw and open and honest, you know, so which is the opposite for me of, you know, ego and not being humble and more bravado than you could poke a stick at, more front than Myers, and that's what it was like for a long time. And I think that's because that's who you surround yourself with, and you don't feel like you can be that authentic person because people exploit that shit in addiction and through jail and all that kind of stuff. But that's not the person I am now. That's not, you know, that's not the life I live now, you know. So I'm able to be open, honest, authentic, and I think it's endearing. For a long time, I thought that I had to be the toughest bloke in every fucking room, and it's just not like that, you know.
Don't you think it feels so free? It literally feels like an exhale. It feels like there's weight off my shoulders. And now that I've started being so honest about my alcohol addiction, I've also started talking about my coke use and my eating disorder. It's crazy how you just feel more free to talk about this stuff.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, for sure.
Mick, do you still keep in contact with anyone from your past, like from jail or from your party days?
I do, but there's no one really. I'm not from New South Wales, so I mean, I talk to lots of people, you know, hundreds and hundreds of people that kind of reach out, and people that have reached out from jail, and people that used to know me, and I think because my stuff, they saw how bad I was, and then they've seen to how far I've come now. People want that stuff, you know what I mean? And the proof's in the pudding kind of stuff, you know what I mean? Like you can have somebody sit across from you and you know, and tell you that they know, hey, it's empathy, not sympathy, you know what I mean? And people know that I've been in the trenches, and now that things are completely different, my life is polar opposites. So I still do talk to people that I've done jail with but yeah, I mean, as a whole, the people, my support networks, the people I hang with, these are all still addicts. Just recovering ones.
Yeah.
So.
Well, that brings me to my final question, and it's going to tie in beautifully. I was reading one of your posts earlier this morning, and you were saying the opposite of addiction is connection.
Yeah, for sure.
Your relationship and your friendship with Alex is so beautiful. How important is it for you to surround yourself with people like that?
Oh, it's paramount. That's kind of where it's all at for me, you know, because then when things go tits up, like yesterday, if I was moving house, like Alex helped me move house yesterday, Alex and his brother and a couple of other people, and when you get triggered, if I was moving house with people that still use drugs, you know how you just look at somebody and you're kind of like, okay.
It's the green light.
Yeah, it's the green light. The conversation doesn't even have to be had, but now I just know that I don't hang with people like that anymore, you know. Alex is my go-to, and you wouldn't think that he was half my age. He's got more sense than I've ever had. No, listen, he's a great guy, and yeah, fucking love him to bits, and I'd be lost without him, you know. He's me running partner, he's my best mate, and you know, and we're really there for each other, you know, which is great. I can ring him any you know, day or time and of night or day, and it's just great. Yeah, he's a special dude. He really
so
is.
is.
Yeah.
Mick, what a life. What a story. Now, this will be my final question. I'm just looking at you now thinking, if you could go back and change anything, would you? Or would you live this life to help people how you are today?
I would live this life, and I see it as a gift, because I wake up with real purpose now, and it's not just that I feel like this was a gift given to me from God, but to help people in this space. But I really love what I do now. You know, I have to be careful about, you know, not doing too much. I'm still in early recovery and stuff like that. But this is the space that I want to work in. And without that lived experience and being where I've been as to where I am, you know, I mean, hindsight's a beautiful thing. But to look back and go, you know what, a tough journey, but that means hopefully that's a journey that somebody else doesn't have to go on.
Totally.
You know, so.
Mick, I am in awe of the life you have led. I'm in awe of how you kind of break down these barriers to toxic masculinity, like someone looking like you and talking so honestly and openly and saying outright, I love Alex, you know, he's my best friend. Oh, I'm just so grateful for your time today. Thank you so much for coming on.
It's been great. I really appreciate it.